Hey and welcome to a quick overview of the kit for the plate of the House of Spiders Ryoshu ID. The name already is a handful and so is the kit. We have once again something with V pages, yippee. And we have 9 skills on her. Rendered, some are like one-time only and stuff like that. But it is a lot. Now we should start off with looking at the passives. And while there's a lot to read through, the overall gimmick of her is that she really profits off the death of other House of Spiders IDs. We can kinda speed it up a little bit with plates, and then once she has killed or enough of the IDs that die, she will just become super powerful, probably solo any encounter that is in the game right now. But yeah. When she enters the encounter the first time, she gains Entanglement and String Severance. Now, Entanglement itself is just a passive effect on herself to kinda keep track as how many of the House of Spiders IDs that die, and the minute max stack can be different, and that will be different depending on how many are in your loadout. And String Severance is also just a buff you get from House of Spiders nurse fathers deaths. So Entanglement also tracks like apprentices and the like. This is only for the nurse fathers. She gains unique effects based still on all of the House of Spiders allies deaths to this one, and she takes less damage for every stack. Okay. So yeah, like I said, the minute max cap is different depending on how many House of Spiders IDs are in the loadout. If any House of the Spiders IDs is on the field, we will transfer HP damage taken to the House of Spider ID with the least current HP percentage instead. I guess we will need to see how much you transfer and how directly it is, but that already makes Ryoshu like a great tank as long as you have just other IDs on the field. When this unit takes damage, that brings its HP down to 0. This unit's HP does not drop below 1 for the turn. This probably be a once encounter effect. But hey, who doesn't love not dying? And then we have basically the closest for all of the House of Spiders deaths. So yeah, for every death she gains Entanglement flat out, and then she will gain, depending on who's died, a unique buff. If Nurse Other Yisang dies, up and using base attack skills, she will convert a final coin into unpickable coin, and deal more damage with base attack skills unpickable coins. You know, that is neat bonus. Especially the extra damage, since we have ways to turn like whole attacks into unpickable coins. We'll come to that. If the Index Dawn ID dies, then up using base attack skills we gain Poise Potency, and then Quit we also inflict Sinking. She will not count as a Sinking ID, but you know, having some Sinking is always a nice bonus. If Middle Ishmael dies, we just gain Defense level, and we inflict additional burn potency using base skills. And basically all of our skills have burn, so that is a huge buff then again. If the Wing Nurse for the Hong Lu dies, we gain Somatic Vision Inspiring Melody, which you might remember is this thing. It's the buff he gives out normally to Wing IDs after he uses his closing time installation. So it will be just +1 speed, +1 clash power, and deal plus 10% damage for her. So, you know, all in all, pretty solid. If Wing Faust dies, we will gain shield equal to X% HP at every turn start, so we will be even more tanky. And then the Pinky Apprentice Sinclair's dies, we gain Poise Count and Crit damage up at every turn start. And you know, crit damage up at every turn start sounds insane, because once we've ramped up, you probably will also crit so often. But, you know, killing off all your allies is a bit sad, and then what are you left with? You have no skill slots, but if there are no identities left to substitute or return, so basically killed off everyone, Blade of the House of Spiders Ryoshu gains skill slots based on the number of the House of Spiders allies that are defeated. So we kill 6 House of Spiders allies, she will toss her there and have 7 skill slots herself, more or less. Pretty neat. And this way you kinda have them first substitute in, and once there is nobody to return, you will just beefier and beefier Ryoshu, which at that point should be already pretty strong. This effect cannot increase skill slots beyond the maximum skill slot cap of the encounter, which is reasonable, but for certain game contents where you basically cannot double slot and not gain more skill slot, this still works, so I'm sure this is gonna be a fun railway, baby. Also, since she has learned from E.G.O, when conditions are met, we will change the battle music until turn end, excluding certain encounters. And we went into basically the biggest passive. Then we come at X plus the hero star's plates, we activate Vent Space against a random enemy at the very end of that turn once per encounter. So this is basically how we get her nuke going. And for the star plate, it is more or less a counter of how much we applied plate wheel after image. And we have a cap of how much stacks we can gain per turn, which is sad, but we get also a mini nuke after our big nuke, so they probably wanted to cap that it doesn't happen every turn, especially since you have so many skill slots. And yeah, so we get this for every sum of plate wheel after image applied, and plate wheel after image we will see is on a lot of her skills, and also you will just applied on crits, which is a nice lead off on the enemies to take more damage from slash skills for every X stack. It does not drop off or anything like that, so against bosses and long encounters this will also be very nice. Okay, but yeah, we gain that skill and use it. This would be basically her skill 3-3. But yeah, we can look at that later. After we used her ult, we cannot retreat for this encounter, which I guess isn't really a drawback. I don't see why you would ever want to and how it could happen. And if we are at enough plates, we will also replace the base skill with Vent Space Echo Shear, which is her skill 3-2 basically. Which is, you know, slightly weaker nuke, I guess. Also, this unit is considered an identity that inflicts burn, bleed, and poise. Very interesting for me, reduction. I will talk about that later on. But, you know, 3 status ID, pretty great for team building. Then, next passive. At the turn start, we inflict Phantom Trace on a random enemy or for abnormalities decor, and we inflict Phantom Trace on 1 additional random enemy for every X the House of Spiders allied identity deaths. So this is basically somewhat like the index targets that they have just randomly told by the prescript you attack this enemy. She has the same thing, more or less. So we apply this to an enemy, they will take more damage from her base attacks specifically, and then we'll go back, because it is a huge boon to you and you want to really prioritize those targets if possible. If an enemy that has Phantom Trace as the main target of the unit's base attack skills, use Invitable Determination as an unopposed attack before using such base attack skill. So yeah, 3 unopposed attack. I assume there's a cap to it per turn in some sense. I don't think they're gonna give her like 5 unopposed attacks, but hey, it's a capstone ID. and we will see it later, but this is the skill 2-2 you get for free for using the skill against the marked target, more or less. Up. Also, if we use a basic attack skill against the target that has Phantom Trace, we convert all coins of that skill into unpickable coins and gain final power, and we gain also entanglement this way to more quickly ramp up. And yeah, you know, having all unpickable coins sounds even more amazing as it already is if you have killed Yi-Sang before. Then we have aftermatch revelation. We will deal more damage on critical hits using base attack skills for every surplus, poise, pass, X poise on self. So there's actually reason to keep getting more poise potency. On crit, using base attack skills to inflict the plate rail afterimage, so the thing we want to work towards for our nuke. And Great Trickerism, Ryoshu's E.G.O passive can be activated using attack skills targeting allies. The passive is basically that you gain crit power up next turn if you stack or kill someone. And we have also a way to attack them with a defense we'll look at. Overall, this is probably great E.G.O synergy with her anyways, and we will also look at the E.G.O usage for her in a second. Then, while we are here, the support passive. When the ally with the earliest deployment order uses the base skill, that ally gains poise potency. This is like even support passive creep, because now we can just put poise potency on any ID. It doesn't even need to be a poise ID or anything. So like, no matter what you're running, her passive will be still decent on the bench. Okay, then it's time to just fight through the 9 skills and go over them. Up. We have skill 1. That is just a normal lust skill with 3 coins, nothing too special on it. We have conditionals for burn and bleed on the target, and we also gain coin power if we have enough poise, and we gain poise counters from using it. This is mostly standard stuff. We gain poise on our coin, we inflict bleed count, we gain poise potency, inflict burn count, more poise. This also on the 3rd coin does inflict some plate rail after image, and we do inflict even more equal to entanglement on ourselves, and then just more bleed, and we deal more damage at the end equal to the entanglement times X% of the coin's final damage. Then skill 2 is a pride skill, which is nothing special. Bleed, burn, poise. You have everything on it. Don't really need to talk about it too much. Skill 3, we gain final power for poise, we gain base power for burn and bleed on the enemy, we do more damage on entanglement, gain poise, and a test attack rate for every X entanglement on ourselves. So if you ramped up, we have just AoEs. We deal more damage if we don't AoE with it. We randomly inflict entanglement on self plus X plate rail after image between the target's hit, so very quick ramp up to gain more nukes. And then we have just 1 coin, sadly in quotation marks, which just means also very easy to re-trigger Nero Dungeon. Inflict bleed, burn, then we activate burn on the target if we crit it. And we also activate bleed on the target if we did crit. For burn, this is amazing. I don't think you really need it for bleed. I guess we'll see how overall the bleed count goes with her. And then we also just see extra slash damage again on a crit. But yeah, very much a coin you want to crit with. Then we come to the defense. It is an evade, and if we ignore the actual usage of it, it will just give you some poise count and poise on evade. But what you actually use it for is that you target the House of Spiders ally with the lettermost deployment order. If we have enough Swing 7s, aka enough killed Nurse Fathers, we target a second one. And once the target allies used all their skills for this turn, we will use an unopposed attack against them to quickly kill them off. But Ryoshu still has a soft spot for Sinclair, so he will die last. Yippee! Okay, so yeah, skill 1-2. It's unclashable and does not trigger defense skills, so we won't just trigger our own counters. We deactivate the base factors decreasing sanity, which means we won't lose sanity for killing people by ourselves. We will lose for this encounter offense level and gain base power for this unit's attacks. I'm not sure if this is supposed to be punishment for quick ramp up, where we will use like more offense level than you gain base power worth of clash power, or if it is actually in some sense a reward where you gain more base power than offense level. I guess we will see on Thursday. Then we gain SP if we actually kill somebody this way, and we gain Entangled Life, which is the buff you get from her buff E.G.O, which means extra damage, and you can use the buff E.G.O for cool damage without having to have it used it before. We inflict Plate Trail after image with the coil, which means the allies will be even more easily susceptible to slash damage, so more easy to kill off. And if it was a spider ally that we targeted, if it should also always should be, I'm not sure why this conditional is here. We deal X% HP damage as fixed damage, which is very nice to go percentage based. So we don't end up with a meta where you only want like level 1 Nurse Fathers or something like that. And we can at least always put a chunk of damage this way. Then we go to skill 2-2. That one was the V unopposed attack if we clashed against someone with Phantom Trace. So before we use our normal base skill, we will use this. It will also not trigger any defense skills, cannot be reused. We gain poise count. If it was triggered by our skill 3 that has AoE, then we will also gain AoE on that, and we will just target everyone that has the Phantom Trace debuff on them. After we use the skill, the target will lose Phantom Trace, so it's not like you can just do 5 skills against one target that is debuffed and get 5 V unopposed attacks. Maybe it means at least you can figure this for how many enemies actually have Phantom Trace per turn. Then it would still be pretty powerful. But yes, we have one coin that deals extra damage on crits, and just Plate Trail after image application that out, then equal to the entanglement on ourselves, and we activate burn on the target. Target still does lose a burn count, but what this means is so much more quicker ramp up for burn. Just basically with any base attack skill we use against someone with burn, we just trigger burn thanks to this. Amazing. And on crit, more slash fragility. Have you noticed yet that this is all slash damage? Okay, then we come to a skill 3-2s and skill 3-3. I guess we can start with the skill 3-3 since you will use this before the skill 3-2. So if we get enough Hero Star Plate, we will use that skill. This does still not trigger the target's defense skill since it is basically free attack, so you don't screw yourself over. You gain Poise. You gain Shin. So once you use your ult, you also just get more power up. From her Shin, she gains min and max speed. If she uses a base attack skill, she gains Poise potency and Poise count. She deals more damage on crits, and she takes less damage on unopposed attacks and unbreakable coins. So I feel like at this point you might be kinda guaranteed to keep critting. and she will be tanky, which might be neat later on, when she might be the only remaining ID on the field you're using. And because this was not enough, at the attack end we also remove her first second threshold. Then we inflict some burn and bleed and activate burn again on a crit. Yeah, I feel the more amazing part of just triggering this is that you gain your Shin and lose your stagger threshold. Then we come to the skill 3-2, which you basically will get the turn after you use your skill 3-3, since it shouldn't use up your D-Hill star. So you will get this on the board. This skill will lose swing 7s on self base power to use coin 1 an additional time, which, fair enough. Final coin gains entanglement on self coin power, and will deal more damage for every excess attack weight beyond the number of actual targets. We waste entanglement's min and max stack cap and resets the entanglement on self to minimum stack, which might be neat. I guess this really also depends on the numbers, and we consume all of her star plates and then we can build them up again. First coin is just burn bleed. Second coin is we consume all plate fill after image on the target and deals us damage equal to the consumed divided by X% of this coin's final damage. And then we deal slash damage equal to entanglement of this coin's final damage. Then we activate burn and bleed again. So pretty solid nuke this way. So yeah, overall, a lot to go through. She has a lot of ramp up. I do assume it will be worth it to kill all the Nurse Fathers, and it's a lot of damage. Then first we can talk a little bit about teams. She is a burn, bleed, ID and poise. Basically can shove them into any team like that. If you have a Nurse Father, you get some extra team killing action stuff going. The thing is, if you go for a specific status build, the Nurse Fathers are also one of the best IDs, so at least in that case, you probably don't want to ramp up too quickly with that, but it's probably still worth to put her in. But especially once we get the last remaining season IDs for the House of Spider IDs, you can also do funny things of just more or less running full teams where she will kill off all her allies, be the solo unit, have 7 skill slots, and even for Mirror Dungeon you can do funny things. So she will always occur as a burn, bleed and poise ID. There's some assumptions to be made here that the Matthias ID is burn, bleed, which I would say is very fair, and probably that the Valencia ID will be burn, poise. But if this is true, which will be pretty busted for like MDE if you go for floor 15, is that you can just run all the House of Spiders IDs, and if you kill them off in the right order, you can still more or less trigger the fusion gifts for burn, bleed and poise. The question is just in which order this is worth it and stuff like that. But that in itself is already one cool thing you can do with her. I mean, you can also just build around a burn, bleed, poise team that much without her once we get more IDs, where you can just always trigger it from the start and have more hotspots of IDs. And then we can also quickly talk about E.G.Os. The kinda obvious synergy we have is the Great Helicosm, since we already saw that she will by her own gain entangled life. Just this, and her unopposed attacks against allies can trigger this to get also crit damage up if she kills people. So yeah, this is just a very neat burn, bleed, poise E.G.O, so it will be great in Mirror Dungeon, etc. We just aligns with her, and she can, even if she is the only ID standing, she can solo fuel this still. Might be a bit of pain, but she could do this. And yeah, having a nice way to gain Entangled Life before you even used it once means that you can just build up already Entangled Life. Then for her actual attack, you can consume all the Entangled Life that is on her and have this also as a big nuke. But this is not where it stops. Then we have for Culture, which is also very funny for this. Once again, it might be more painful, but she can solo fuel this. But while you would want to use it, you probably would also have still, allies around. Poisoning, we gain cool passive to, I guess, gain Nebulizer for basically more poise for ourselves. But what we also can be doing, especially with the Corrosion, is we can team kill with this. Not only do we get paid off with more deep inhale from killing of our party members, but hey, we are also killing of our party members this way. And that will be quicker ramp up. So that is a cool E.G.O to keep in mind. Then what she still can solo fuel is the 4th Match Flame. It's not the most amazing choice, especially if you could consider quicker ramp up. I guess you do get +4 final power on every 4th skill she uses and inflicts burn on it. That is something. And maybe this will be so much more useful with the Fat Spin 5 that also releases with this ID, so I could see them doing some more synergy there. And then at least what she still can also solo fuel, and is honestly a pretty solid scene, is just your standard scene where she can inflict some fragile on the enemies. Oop. Yep. Pretty solid even E.G.O selection for an ID you might just end up running solo. And yep, that more or less is. A lot of the other IDs might require a bit of envy and stuff like that, which you will get early on. I guess for something like Neo Dungeon it also doesn't matter, but if you go to the story that is not a dungeon, you still will have access to at least like those E.G.Os for sure. And yeah, team building wise, the most straightforward is just get all the House of Spiders ID into one loadout and go wild. Pretty strong ID. I'm kinda looking forward to see how busted it really is. The only drawback I could see is if you want to activate the nukes of the Nurse Father IDs beforehand, you might not actually get to it because they are pretty slow and she has nothing to really wait till they activated something like that. But if she is powerful enough, then there's also no reason to wait on it. And this is probably long enough at this point, so thanks for watching and bye bye.